Today I'm going to show you how to make a tassel mold using our PaperLathe bead and tassel system. When you get the system, you'll have a CD and a DVD which will take you through this, but basically the CD has a whole variety of patterns that you print out from PDF. And what you need to do is, once you've chosen which design you want, you need to cut out the strips along the straight solid lines. You can use a pair of scissors for this, or you can use a knife and ruler, whatever is your preference. You then need to choose which acrylic rolling rod you want to use, and again you've got a variety of sizes. I know that this size will make the nice hole for the cord that I want to use, that I've made up for this particular tassel. So to begin, we start with number 1. It's a very good place to start. Roll the paper along the rod just to get it started, because you don't want any glue on the rod. We have given the acrylic rolling rods because they can be easily cleaned. You're using a clear drying PVA, it's a lot easier if you have the acrylic. I use a watered down PVA, only slightly watered down, but you can also use a very inexpensive one. You know, the one you buy that's always a little bit too runny for your paper crafting needs. And then basically roll the strip around. Your first strip needs to sort of just line up on itself. Add a bit of glue as you need it. And I find that it's quite easy, well, easier to roll over the rod as opposed to rolling with the paper under it. That is honestly a personal preference thing. Whatever feels most comfortable to you, it doesn't matter. It's a piece of paper being rolled around a rod. There's no rules here. Well, there's a little bit of a rule. Just make sure that you've got it well glued. There we have number 1. I'm going to make sure that those edges are glued down. And the other thing that you want to do is, as you're going every once in a while, is make sure that that rod will move around, that you haven't accidentally glued your paper to the rod, because if it dries there, you're not going to get it back off. So now the pattern tells you which two, or in this case, need to be rolled on next. For some, it'll just be which number is the next, and it will be 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. So we're going to start with number 2. And we're going to add this. Now this is a skinny piece, so it's easier to put the glue directly onto what you've already rolled, and make sure that you glue this initial piece onto what you've already got well, because if you don't, you could find that you lift off the separate sections because you haven't glued each section in well enough. So we'll just give that a nice press, make sure that's all glued down, and then add a little bit of glue and roll it around. And again, we come to the end of that, make sure that's nice and secure, and we'll notice that it then says that it wants number 3 on next. And number 3 is even skinnier. You can just see that dotted line, and number 3 needs to go into the space that it fits in on the dotted line. It doesn't go below it. It goes into the space where it fits. Now there are some where you can form a cup shape, and that will be denoted in the actual pattern that that's what you're doing. But basically, you will put the shape in the space where the number is. That's the easiest way to remember it. And so there we are, that's number 3. So obviously the logical place to move next is to number 4. And number 4 is a wider strip. And you can see that there's 2 dotted lines there. So it needs to go lined up in those. It doesn't go right to the actual edge because then the dotted lines wouldn't line up. And again, make sure that the next layer is well secured to the previous layer. And now, just completing number 4. Get that nicely secured down, do a little wiggle, and then we've got number 5 goes next. So you can see it's quite a straightforward system, but every single one of these has been carefully designed to give you a whole variety, because you can make them thinner or thicker, and that's all explained in the system too. And then from 5 to 6, and then 6 to 7. This system was designed so that, or basically because I love making multi-element tassels, but where do you keep getting all of the little molds, particularly if you're making tassels for purses and things like that? Finding these small designs is actually very, very difficult to do. So by doing this, you're actually creating something to your own spec, because you can also leave off bits. For instance, I might just want this bulbous shape and not bother with the top part, and that will give me a whole nother look again. And then there we go. Number 7 doesn't have another number on it, so we know that's the last one, just in case you had lost a strip somewhere. Now you know that you haven't. And there is your little tassel mold. Make sure that it moves on the rod if you're going to leave it to dry on the rod, and do leave it to dry fully, because obviously you're using a wet, you've got layers of wet glue, but once it is dry completely, it will be a very solid, sturdy item and will support your tassel threads if you're going to use traditional tassel covering techniques. Or of course you could also sand them down, you can paint them, you can fill them with gesso, anything else like that. If you've enjoyed the video, please subscribe for lots more. Let me know what you think, and you can get the PaperLathe system over on our website, and I'll add the links below. Thanks very much for watching. Bye bye.